2-minute warning. Selena. Selena, can you see my camera? Selena? Selena, please come on camera. All right, Selena, we're about to begin.
Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Amgen Biotech Experience Future Biotech Leaders Virtual Summit. That's a lot. Now I'm sure that you're all yelling, screaming, and applauding. I got sound effects. And cheering because you're so excited to be here and ready to be inspired. Unfortunately, we can't see each other to be in the same space, but we're using technology and we'll be able to see each other on social media. That's where I get to come in. My name is Robert Howard. I also go by Rob Howard or Mr. Howard. My main gig is I do something called restorative justice in schools, in the community, helping people build teams and relationships, but also to help mediate and repair them when there's conflict or harm. And recently, I started my social media commitment with TikTok. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a phenomenal app. And on there, I got to 10,000 followers in 30 days, basically doing the same thing I do for a living, encouraging people to have conversation. So you can find me on TikTok or social media at Mr. Howard 365. But we'll be using social media a little bit later. You'll see me popping up on screen from time to time telling you about our Meeting Pulse site. If you don't have the link to the site already, it's METT, M-E-T-T, PS slash ABE hyphen LA, all lowercase, and I'll repeat it. It's MEET, MEET dot PS slash ABE hyphen LA, all lowercase. To show me that you found it, why don't you all click on the Pulse tab and leave me a reaction. Let's use the technology on this site and on these forums. I'm gonna wait and see if I can see it. Okay, all right. That means something good happened. That's the DJ sound effects. All right. We'll have questions here for you to answer throughout the program. You can also react to things on the Pulse as well. I'll be watching it throughout the event, of course. And after the event, I might even have a TikTok live chat where we can keep the conversation going and get to know each other too. Now let's get things started. It's my honor to introduce the LA Council member, Mark Ridley Thomas.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas here. Welcome to the Amgen Future Leaders of Biotech Virtual Summit. I'm so glad you're here today because we need you. We need your brilliance and we need your creativity. We need your lived experience to help ensure future biotech innovations truly impact everyone. That's why I'm so proud to partner with my friends at LA Promise Fund for this important endeavor of building the bench of biotech leaders. Over the past several years, Los Angeles has doubled down on its commitment to and its investment in biotech. Today I'm here talking to you because none of the investments will be worth anything if we don't have you deepening your studies in science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, so you can work in the research labs, startups, and jobs that will be created. By participating in today's summit, you're showing me that I have nothing to be worried about because you're already on that path. Thank you for being here and enjoy the summit.
Good afternoon. My name is Veronica Melvin, and I am the president of the LA Promise Fund. I am excited to thank the councilman, Mark Ridley Thomas, for joining us today and inspiring us to pursue careers and study in STEM and biotech. The councilman is a giant supporter of the LA Promise Fund and a champion of biotech and a champion of South Los Angeles. In addition, he and I share something in common, which is making certain that young people, a diverse body of young people, find their passion so that they can pursue the right paths in career. And better conversation for us to have in the middle of a pandemic than to talk about future career opportunities in the biotech industry. That is why I am thrilled to welcome you today to the first annual Future Leaders of Biotech Summit that we are so excited to put together for you. I have to thank my amazing team for all their hard work in doing this. Big shout outs go out to Michelle, to Stacy, to Karen, to Jade, to Scarlett. And I want you to know that we could not do this alone. There's a lot of partners in crime that put some magic behind the scenes to make this happen. First and foremost, I have to applaud Amgen, the corporation Amgen Pharmaceutical, and their Amgen Foundation for everything they have done for years to make certain that students are connected to biology, to science, and to STEM. And they have done so most pronouncedly through their Amgen Biotech experience. Many of you students have already experienced the biotech experience in your classrooms, whether you knew it or not, but there are labs that your teachers have come to us for on training on, and that we have delivered different kits of labs so that you get cutting edge lab experiences. And they have done this for years, more than a decade now. And so we are so grateful to the president of Amgen for his leadership and diversity and building the pipeline of young people into the STEM and the biotech industry, Mr. Bob Bradway. I'm also excited to thank our board member from Amgen, Lori Johnston, the president of the Amgen Foundation, Eduardo Setlin, the man who manages ABE, Scott Heimlich, and our contact there, Ashley Young. So thank you to everyone at Amgen, and thank you for allowing us to put this day on and lending all of your expertise and resources to make it successful. We also have some other partners to make it happen. To Rebecca and Jessica over at EDC. Thank you for all you do in managing an international biotech program for young people, again, around the world. Amgen Biotech Experience is now international. It started in Los Angeles and has subsequently expanded. And then we have two partners in crimes up in the Bay Area, in San Francisco and in San Diego. Thank you to Callie and to Biocomp for your partnership and your leadership in bringing together this first annual Biotech Summit and cultivating the future leaders in biotech. Next, I have so much applause, and kids, you guys gotta make certain that you give some applause to your teachers. Give them some shout outs in your chats so that they know that they are loved and appreciated, because they've been contortionists for the past year and having to pivot to virtual learning and having to overcome the giant challenge, which is providing lab experiences and interactive science classes and lessons to you from home. So thank you to all the hundreds of thousands of teachers that participate in the biotech experience, but also that are here with us today. Thank you for your continuous commitment to ABE and for ensuring that students continue to have exposure to the important field of STEM and biotech. We couldn't do this work without you, and we appreciate all you do in your own time to go above and beyond in service to your students. And then last but not least, to the students, I just wanted that we miss you. We miss seeing you. We miss going out to your schools and seeing your labs in person. Thank you for hanging in there. We know it has been tough. I hope that you use this opportunity. You've got some extra times in your hand to think about what career would most appeal to you. If you're in this session, we're hoping you're giving extra consideration to STEM and biotech. And you're going to hear today from a plethora of speakers that will tell you their story and inspire you and give you some tips and advice on what you can do to fulfill that area of passion through your studies and through some work-based learning experience. So everyone, welcome to the first annual Future Leaders of Biotech Summit. I can't wait to see you hopefully in person next year. Enjoy the show.
For 30 years, the Amgen Foundation has been supporting schools.
Great. Thank you, Veronica, for that kind introduction. I'm so excited to be here and to be part of this summit today. At the Amgen and Amgen Foundation, we are proud to support LA Promise and the Amgen Biotech Experience and have done so for many, many years. I know there are about 3,000 students on the line today from San Francisco to Los Angeles to San Diego and beyond. At Amgen, we strive to use science and biotechnology to develop medicines, but you can't do that without a scientific workforce, a highly educated scientific workforce. You can't do that if people don't understand and appreciate the role that science and biotechnology plays in our lives. That's where we need you. We need, and we focus on, through the Amgen Foundation, how we can instill a love of science in young people. That's the reason we run programs like the Amgen Biotech Experience and other initiatives in California and across the world to make sure that students have an appreciation and have a chance to understand what biotechnology is and the career opportunities in the field. We also want to expand the field, but we want to diversify the field. We need many perspectives. When you go about discovering and developing, manufacturing and delivering a medicine, you want diverse perspectives throughout the process. And so we are focused at the Amgen Foundation on diversifying the field, inspiring more scientists from every background to consider science as a career. The Amgen Biotech experience is incredibly important to us as a company and as a foundation. We've reached over 900,000 students over 30 years by engaging students in these labs. Over the last year with the pandemic and with school out of session, I'm proud to say that through a new partnership with Harvard University called Lab Exchange, we have enabled millions of students to continue to engage in hands-on science and hands-on biotechnology during this pandemic. That all being said, I know that some of you on the line here have had a chance to perform the labs in your own classroom related to the Amgen Biotech experience. Others of you have not yet. So next we're going to roll a video that gets at what the Amgen Biotech experience is, why we're so proud to support it, and how we bring biotechnology into high schools across Los Angeles, across the nation, and actually today across 22 communities across the world. Thank you so much. And again, so much respect to LA Promise Fund for all they do for students. Thank you.
For 30 years, the Amgen Foundation has been supporting schools in the Los Angeles area. We started as a small program with only 4 high schools in the Conejo Valley in the late 1990s and have grown to over 160 schools in the greater LA area, serving over 27,000 students each year. The Amgen Biotech Experience Program is now an international program with over 22 sites in different countries, inspiring a lifelong passion for scientific discovery in students globally. Our program provides students the opportunity to learn hands-on skills actually used in research and development of medical therapeutic products. The Amgen Biotech Experience provides the foundational knowledge that students need in order to pursue a career in biotechnology while giving them an edge in this competitive and booming field. We support our teachers by holding training workshops and providing all the research-grade equipment and supplies for their students to perform the labs. The reward of being a young scientist is the emotional thrill of being the very first person in the history of the world to see or to understand something, and nothing can compare with that experience. So if you know you're on the right track, if you know you have the inner knowledge, then nothing can turn you off. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more, so that we may fear less. Now is the time to follow your dreams, to become the future leaders of biotech.
Hi, my name is Alex and I'm a junior studying biotech at CSUN. Let's go Matadors! When I was in the ABE program, I remember not knowing what I wanted to do when I grew up. But after 3 years of doing research and experiments in the program, I fell in love with biotech. You're about to hear from Junro, who also fell in love with the biosciences through the ABE program. Let's all give her a virtual round of applause.
Hi, Hi, can you guys all hear me? Awesome. My name is June, and I'm a first-year college student, and I want to talk about my research journey. So if you had asked me 5 years ago to describe a scientist, I would have said white coat, cool goggles, crazy hair. Ask me now, and my answer would be me or you. It could be anyone. My view of science has changed, and it all began 5 years ago during my freshman year of high school. When I came into high school, I had a vague idea of what this arbitrary field of science was. I knew there was physics, biology, chemistry, maybe ecology. I also found that in middle school, I'd gravitated towards biology because I liked studying bones and muscles. So I enrolled in medical biology my freshman year. In this class, I truly got to know biology. I engaged in debates on GMOs, learned about complex processes like photosynthesis or cellular respiration, delved deeply into various types of cells. It was my first class of a day, and I always remember walking in with such enthusiasm. This class also helped introduce me to Miss Twasson, who would become my mentor throughout the rest of high school, and even now. On top of teaching me, she introduced me to this program called the Academy of Science and Medicine, an organization that allowed high school students like me to explore their interest in science and medicine a bit more through field trips, seminars, extra classes, and internships. She pulled me right into this program, and it was through here that over the summer, I was able to continue my journey in science with a class called Biotechnology, which introduced me to these very Amgen Biotech Experience labs for the first time. Biotechnology, taught by Ms. Twasson, was 10 weeks of almost 4 hours a day in the hybrid classroom lab. Our desks were quite literally the lab benches. After all, the objective of this class was to get you in the lab, to get you to do real sciencey stuff. And I wasn't disappointed. This class was almost life-changing. Parts of it were difficult, yes, and I did struggle with bridging concepts learned in class to activities done in the lab, but it was a challenge that I genuinely enjoyed. And one of the most memorable moments was learning gel electrophoresis, one of the most basic lab skills out there. I also engaged in labs like a cheese making one, using science to create something edible, but also something that made our classrooms stink. And of course, the paradigm of all labs, the ABE sequence, which challenged us to conduct genetic engineering. It was a lab consisting of many parts, including the usage of plasmids, the circular DNA sequence, and the restriction enzymes used to cut plasmids, as well as the verification of bacteria using, again, gel electrophoresis, and of course, transformation, which was inserting a recombinant plasmid, and that's a plasmid that has our desired gene inside the bacterial cell itself. So the end result was us literally changing the nature of the bacteria, using only genes. There are moments that stand out to me during the Amgen biotech experience process, from using the sturdy micropipette to transfer solutions from one test tube to another, feeling the heat of the incubator where the cell plates or the mediums where the cells can grow on resided, to my favorites, seeing the bright red of the fluorescent gene. I also recall failing, with my bacterial cells not growing, with me puncturing the wells in the gel. I even broke a very expensive beaker. But overall, these were the moments that drew me into the research process. Biotechnology and its Amgen Biotech Experience Labs made me enamored with the practicality, beauty, and challenge of scientific research. And I might not have been the best student, but I wanted to do more with it. The Academy of Science and Medicine provided me with the opportunity to take AP Biology and Research in my junior year. Now the second class, Science Research, provided me with the resources to conduct my own research with the guidance of my mentors, Ms. Twasson, Ms. A, and Ms. Kova. Again, I wasn't part of this internship or anything. I didn't even have an official lab to work in, nor did I have all these fancy tools or resources. But I was driven by this incessant need to do something. And so I began work on eutrophication, which is the over-enrichment of bodies of water by nutrients. At one point, my house was filled with pots and pots of plants, each of them various trials, and also with the smell of my natural fertilizers, chocolate, banana peels, coffee grounds. I also broke my mom's favorite food processor because I had the bright idea to grind up dirt in it. She didn't think the idea was so bright. But The point I want to make here is that it was through passion that I conducted research, that I finished up a science poster and took it to the LA County Science Fair and the California State Science Fair, where I was so inspired by walking through the aisles of posters of the various innovative ideas that young people like me had. I recognized here that I was stepping into the shoes of a scientist, and that the students around me were scientists in the making too. I was actually so inspired by this that I decided to continue research the summer after at the City of Hope Cancer Research Hospital, where, under the guidance of Dr. Wong, I completed a project on the effects of various malarial drugs on the cell death of ovarian cancer cells. Now, this wasn't an actual lab. It was amazing getting to work with people who had been in this field for decades. But I think my biggest takeaway here was that I found out why research was so fundamentally important to me. And it was because I saw the effects of research firsthand, manifested in the treatments for patients, that I began associating research with service. It was an academic form of volunteering, and as someone whose value is service, I realized that science could be an active part of my life. So I'm here now. I'm in my first year in college, and influenced by my experiences in high school, molecular and cellular biology is one of the majors that I'm considering. And maybe I'll combine that with studying medicine in both a clinical and research setting. And I want you all to know that everyone's journey is unique and that you don't have to be the best in the room to pursue something you like. I thought biology was all about bones and muscles until I took that first medical biology class. You might not realize that you like physics until your junior year of high school or even your second year in college. You just need an interest in it. It was my passion in science that drove me towards research. So I want you all to ask yourselves, do I like science? Can I go somewhere with it? Because I assure you that if the answer to the first question is yes, then the answer to the second question is also yes. And journey is yours and yours only. Thank you.
You so much, June, for your inspiring remarks. We have a few questions for you, if that's okay.
Yes, of course. I'd be happy to answer the questions.
Okay, so up first is, what was it like working in a real lab compared to the ABE lab at school?
So I think the underlying concepts were the same. You see the same skills like gel electrophoresis, PCR, everything in the real lab, but there were these really stark differences. I mean, first of all, your purpose in the real lab is to advance the field of science, and it's to sign grants, it's to write papers, right? But in the ABE lab, your purpose is to learn and engage. It's kind of like a transition state from ABE to the real lab. And also, I think what made a real difference is having professionals with decades of experience working alongside me. It was a completely different environment because I could always ask them questions. And to be honest, in the beginning, I was a little bit intimidated because they were these professors with PhDs with over 20, 30 years of experience. And lastly, it was definitely the equipment. The lab itself, the real lab, it's so well furnished, and you have so many machines going on around you, and you just feel so inspired by having such equipment. And those were the differences. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing so deeply, but you mentioned like moments that you felt like you failed. You used the word failed. Do you have any advice for us to deal with setbacks or failures like you experienced?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the moments that I definitely remember when I failed was when I was doing my plant and eutrophication research. I mean, at one point I was doing so many trials and I was so frustrated because my plants were just not growing. And I think my biggest takeaways from here were that like you have to analyze your failures. You have to face them on and make observations and record these observations, because if you don't learn from the failures you make, then what was the point of suffering through them in the first place? You're going to feel frustrated again if you don't remember your failures. And the advice too that I have is to seek help. And I think this was kind of a difficult point for me because I wanted to do everything on my own. But sometimes the experiment you're doing is beyond you. And that's why you have a support system all around you. That's why you have a lab with so many people. You have your mentors. You have to seek help. And I think those are my two main pieces of advice.
I love it. You said that you conducted your own research. How did you decide what to research? Like, did you discover anything from that? Tell us more.
So I did my own research through my junior year science research class. And I remember the title was Preventing Eutrophication with an Organic Fertilizer Made of Dark Chocolate, Coffee Grounds, and Banana Peels. It's a mouthful. And I studied the differing effects of liquefied, whole, and powder organic fertilizer and what they had on eutrophication to see if which form could help plants grow without harming the water supply. And how I decided what to research was one, practicality. In a certain time frame, what can I do with the resources I have? Like I can't cure cancer. I have to stay within my scope. And also challenge. Like I'd never done plant research before. I wanted to go outside of my box. I didn't know as much about plants and ecology as much as I did about cellular research learned in biotech. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And I think the third one was interest. I mean, like you have to like something to do tons and put in so many hours of research into it. So I like the idea of studying eutrophication because it's something that affects all of us today. If you see our rivers and ponds, you see eutrophication and the problems it causes. And something I discovered, just practicality in the science world, was that the liquefied natural fertilizer had the least harmful effects on eutrophication while helping the plants grow as fast as they can. And I also really determined my idea of patience here. I discovered that I could be patient if I really try to be.
Patience is one of my core values. Maybe you could help us out by sharing, how did you get a summer internship doing research?
Right. So I think this was a natural transition because I did my summer internship in my junior year summer after I did my plant research in my junior year. So after that, I was like, I need to look for something. Like I want to be in the real lab. And through the Academy of Science and Medicine and through other pieces of support, I found this City of Hope Roberts Academy. And this is a summer-long program for students interested in cancer research. Actually, if you type this research program's name online, City of Hope Roberts Academy, you will find it. There are applications. So like everyone else, I applied online, which included writing short responses and submitting recommendations. And it was like a life-changing research experience for me. So I would definitely recommend that everyone look into it.
Can you share that link one more time?
Yes, I don't have a link on hand. I can send it to you guys after, but it's City of Hope, Roberts, ROBERTS Academy.
Thank you so much. Best of luck to you as you continue your studies at Princeton. That's exciting.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having
Next is Priscilla Vasquez.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Vasquez from Orthopedic High School in Los Angeles, and I want to ask you a question. What industry is the fastest growing sector for jobs in the US? Is 80% male, only 5% Black, and 6% Latino? If you guessed them, you'd be right. In the next conversation, we're going to talk about diversity in STEM, why it matters, and the experience of diverse individuals in the field.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nora. I am the current site coordinator and lab tech for our South LA site here at ABE-LA. I am a first-generation college student and also Latina in STEM. My first interest in science began in middle school when my father talked about how girls aren't supposed to be good at science or in math. So in order to prove somewhat to myself and to others, I threw myself into the field, and my love and passion has grown ever since. I know that I am not the only woman that's been discouraged about pursuing a career in STEM, either by our community or by an individual. We know that women are severely underrepresented in STEM careers, as estimates suggest about 25 to 28% of people working in STEM fields are women and the rest are men. On top of that, men are paid on an average of $15,000 more annually in that industry. We also see a disparity when it comes to minorities in the STEM fields. The National Center for Education Statistics has reported that approximately 18% of our Black first-year students indicated that they wanted to pursue a STEM degree, which is great. Unfortunately, after that, about 40% of them changed their specialty, or 26% of them have dropped out of college. The reasons range from financial issues to poor preparation by high schools that have left them feeling intellectually inferior or disadvantaged. And while Latinos make up 70% of the entire employment across all occupations, we only represent about 8% of all STEM workers. Like African American students, many more start college with an interest in STEM, however, do not pursue that degree or any career in the future. And I can continue with stats like this, but that's not why we're here today, right? We're here to be inspired. So that's why I'm very excited to introduce to you 3 people working in STEM who have defied the odds and are here to talk about it with you today. I'm going to introduce each of them individually, and then we can jump into our conversation. First, let me introduce to you Wen Wu. She is professor of biology at Fullerton College and coordinates the ABE programs in Riverside and Orange County high schools. Jo, you want to wave your hand?
Hello, nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. Next, we have Manuel Acosta, who is a professor of chemistry at Los Angeles Trade Tech College. Manuel?
Yes, hello. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Last but certainly not least, we have Marco Cyril, who is a clinical research medical director at Amgen.
Hello, like everyone else, I'm so happy to be here, and I look forward to chatting with you all.
Okay, great. Let's jump into our first question for each of you. What inspired you to defy the odds and pursue a career in bioscience? Why don't we start with you, Manuel?
Well, I was very lucky that I always had this innate curiosity to how things worked. Ever since I was a child, you know, I was always wondering how things worked. I was always seeking answers. I asked a lot of questions. So lucky for me, I was surrounded with a lot of good teachers. I grew up in the East Side, East LA, and I'm a product of the LA Unified School District. And I was very fortunate that I had a lot of teachers. And early on, thinking about it way back, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, all the way through high school, there was always teachers that were encouraging me, were inspiring me, and allowing me to ask questions and wonder. And in addition, I was very fortunate to have you know, 2 good, loving parents that again encouraged me to ask questions. They hardly ever told me to shut up, so I was very happy about that. And I think that's kind of fueled a passion for the science and getting into this field. So yeah, I think I was very lucky. But basically, it came down to just having good teachers and my parents.
Awesome. How about you next, Marco?
Actually, there are quite a bit of similarities in my story as to what I just heard from Manuel. I spent considerable time growing up in Haiti, so there were 2 things. Growing up in Haiti, I saw quite a bit of need around me. I think probably most of you know that the level of poverty in Haiti is very high. And in addition to seeing a lot of poverty around me, I also had chronic illness in my family. My mother had a chronic illness, and she was not really able to be a parent. And I felt the need to serve very acutely. And when I finished secondary school in Haiti, it was a little bit a difficult time for me because at that time my father passed away, and I was kind of like on my own. But when I started college here, there was an advisor who truly believed in me. And I think she probably believed in me more than I believed in myself. So she was a strong force in terms of me making the decision and say, okay, you know what, I really want to help and serve. Let me make a go at it.
Awesome. That's a really good story. Lastly, Joe.
Okay, so my story is more like Marco. I am a first generation immigrant from Taiwan, and my family moved to a very small town in Missouri in the Midwest. And so, unlike California, I was the very first foreign student and the only Asian in my school, and actually the entire school district. Because my mother and I did not speak any English and there was no special classes for foreign speakers, I basically went through elementary school on independent learning contracts and studied at my own pace. And so eventually I read all of the children's books at the public library, and I became very fascinated by scientists' biographies and the work that they did. And so I started doing science fair projects on my own, and I was very lucky to be chosen to do summer research at a local university when I started high school. And while I was there, I met a female chemist, Dr. Long, who would become my inspirational mentor and be a very important part of my development. So because I was the first female in the family to go to university and the first person to get a doctoral degree, my parents gave me a lot of general support, but they didn't really know how to give me much specific guidance about university programs and science career pathways. But but Dr. Long did encourage me quite a bit to strive for bigger goals, think about advanced degrees, think about possible science careers that was not common for women at the time. And so this was very huge for me. So anyway, once I did enter the university, then I met more students like myself who had similar goals, and then we were able to give each other emotional support. So yeah, so that's why I'm in science. Okay.
That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear. Joe, you mentioned that you had that inspirational mentor, and we heard Gian say the same thing a couple minutes before. Can you say more about why you think having a mentor is important, and share any advice for someone who is looking for a mentor for this field?
Okay, I think a mentor needs to be a coach and a cheerleader for you. So the mentor does not have to be necessarily a teacher, but it's better when they know something about the career field you're interested in. And you want them to be able to guide you in terms of the career path, but you also need them to really give you a lot of emotional support and encouragement, right? Constant encouragement. Like Marco said, sometimes, you know, the mentor believes in you more than you have confidence about yourself. Okay. In order to find mentors, I basically would go to lots of seminars. I would help in the community with special events, maybe like at a science museum, the Red Cross, ecological preserves, and because you will meet different people who are interested in science. So that's where I would go. And of course, do science fair projects, because your judges will be people that work in the industry. Yeah.
That's amazing. There's a lot of mentors out there for everyone. Marco, you mentioned how your upbringing really instilled a desire to serve as part of a reason to pursue a career in bioscience. How so, and how does that desire to serve really show up in your work today?
Well, when I was in medical school, I realized that serving and taking care of patients was definitely very gratifying. But there was a fire in me to do a little bit more. And I was not entirely sure when I began how to channel that, how to articulate that. But I was fortunate to be at a place where research was a strong emphasis. And they sort of encouraged me to look into translational medicine as to one possible avenue where I could articulate that fire or that desire for service. And I spoke to someone who had a huge impact on me in terms of like how I could actually apply this on a day-to-day basis. I spoke to someone who was involved in the development of a drug that was used for rheumatoid arthritis. And when the FDA approved that drug, the first thing that he did, he picked up the phone and says, "Ma, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because with that one drug, now I can help millions and millions of people." I think perhaps, unfortunately, like with the pandemic, which is not a positive thing, but people have insight as to what research and developing new medication and new possibilities might have in terms of what it means for society, in terms of the vaccines that have been developed. So every day that I go to work, and whatever challenges that we may be meeting at work, it's an opportunity for me to contribute to possibly bring something that make a difference in someone's life, because of illnesses that they are facing. So I really truly feel blessed in that sense, because I feel like I have the chance to do something every single day that ultimately will be translated very directly in terms of the impact it has on someone's life, and hopefully broader into society as well.
Awesome. That's amazing to hear. It's great for everyone to see how you can have such passion for science, but also for how science helps and affects the community around you as well. Next on to Manuel. You're teaching at a community college. Do you think the path is any different for students interested in a bioscience career who attend community college first?
You know, that's a great question. So I spent many years, about 23 years in the biomanufacturing industry. And in my second phase of my career, I decided to teach. And I was lured into the community college environment. And part of the reason was, in my experience, I realized that there was a lot of attention that was being paid to the students. So there's many advantages to being a community college student, especially in the sciences. The classrooms tend to be a little smaller. The cost is definitely less expensive. There's also a variety of programs that are being offered, especially in today's time, which is based on workforce development, that you won't find necessarily in the larger university four-year schools. And these programs, so at LA Trade Tech, we have a program where it's a combined applied science program where we teach chemical technology, process technology, and biomanufacturing, which is part of the biotechnology. And I run the biomanufacturing program, and I teach the biomanufacturing principles. And so the idea here is to train students who necessarily don't need or want a college degree, and it allows them to get enough training and skills so that they can be contributing employees in the biomanufacturing industry. And in addition to that, if they do decide that this is a career for them, they can also get an AS degree in these areas, and even transfer to a four-year school, so a four-year university, so that they can get their bachelor's degree and beyond, of course. So community colleges have a lot of advantages to a lot of students, especially in science. And again, as I think I mentioned earlier, that the class sizes are a little smaller. Many times in the larger universities, the first year, second year chemistry, biology courses, there could be 200-300 students sometimes. At a community college, you'll hardly ever see anything like that. I mean, we're talking about maybe 25-30 students at the most. So there's a lot of attention. And of course, another big advantage is at a university level, a lot of the professors are doing a lot of research. They spend a lot of time in the laboratory. At a community college, a lot of the professors are actually focused on the teaching more. So again, that adds to the attention, and it adds to the experience. And and of course, I think students will benefit in the long run. They get a nice fundamental basis, right, of the sciences. So, and of course, that is the main point to the preparation in a career in science and being successful in science. So yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Manuel. I think it's important for all of our students to hear that there's so many different opportunities and pathways to a career in science, not just a typical four-year university pathway. We do have a lot of other options out there that can be very beneficial. So I wish we had more time to go deeper into this topic with each of you, but unfortunately we don't. So to end this conversation, I have a question for each of you. What are you seeing in the field that's giving you hope for diversity in this industry? Marco, how about we go with you first?
I'm truly hopeful because I think there's widespread recognition that it's just good business to have diversity. Whatever it is that you're making, whatever service that you're providing, it's important when that service is being developed that everyone has a voice on at the table, has a seat at the table, and has a voice that to express the needs and the particular perspective that their own has. And I feel like at least in my industry, and I seem to have a feeling that in the corporate world in general, there seems to be a recognition that this is just purely good business to do this. So for me, that's encouraging.
Great. Joe, how about you? What are you seeing right now that's giving you hope for diversity in this industry?
I see a lot more minority students and women students going on into the biology and biotechnology related professions and degrees and professions. My school, it happens to be 70% minority, and my students do need to actually work while they go through college. And so I totally agree with what Manuel talked about. At our community college, we have many high school students that actually come in to start learning their hands-on skills while they're in high school. And then when they come to the community college, they can actually get part-time jobs in the industry as well as go to school. Then they transfer to four-year universities, but actually there's 2 community colleges in California that offer the biotechnology bachelor's degree. So I have students who go there, and they're also working at the same time, and their entire degree will cost less than $10,000. And along the way, they will have earned about $100,000. So it will be a big difference. I have lots of Hispanic students who are actually getting really excellent jobs after their degrees. And I have about 15 students right now in PhD programs and many, many more in medical related professions. So that is very, wonderful to hear. Yeah.
That's amazing. We're seeing an increase in diversity in this field, something that we definitely need, more people in the workforce and also in academics. Lastly, Manuel, how do you feel about this field and how we're moving forward with diversity in this industry?
Yeah, what gives me hope in increased diversity in the future is that there's definitely a lot more awareness. There's a lot more people are understanding the science and becoming comfortable with the science, especially if you think about the pandemic that we just went through. People are starting to realize that that science plays a big role in controlling, for example, in the production of vaccines. That's actually a biotech product. Hopefully everybody realizes that now. And I think so there's a lot of discussion on the sciences being a big part of the future. And it's not just with vaccines, but also there's a lot of therapeutics, there's a lot of medicines out there that are being developed that have a biotech base. The other thing that gives me hope is that there's a lot of programs now, there's a lot of partnerships with industry. So industry is actively seeking out partnerships with a lot of community colleges and trying to create these training programs and platforms and bridges so that they can encourage students to seek a career in science. So that's very encouraging. The last couple of years that I've been a professor, I see more and more of that, and there's a lot of and I get to attend a lot of conferences and a lot of organizations where there just seems to be a big push on increasing the number of minorities in STEM. So I look forward to it, and I think it's going to happen.
Awesome, thank you. It is great right now that we are focusing on pushing more minorities to join STEM, as it is going to be a big part of the future. There is a lot of things going on right now with biotech. Okay, everyone, let's give a virtual round of applause to our amazing and inspiring panelists today. Let us know how you felt about this conversation in the meeting polls that we talked about at the beginning of the summit. Thank you again, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your summit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. There's actually a question from the audience. Is it possible that I could ask?
Sure, yeah.
All right. So the question that I have that I received was, what are the 2 community colleges in California that offer the BS in biotech?
So that would be Solano College near Sacramento and Manuel Acosta College in North San Diego County.
Perfect. I also want to encourage our audience to be able to ask questions if they have them in our chat. I appreciate you guys for going with the flow with me on that one. I wanted to ask that question.
My name is Rich. I'm a junior at Stanford where I major in human biology. I graduated from Reseda High where I participated in the ABE program. You're about to get a taste of the lab experiments I did that inspired me to continue on in bioscience. If you ever watched the CSI shows on TV, did you know that's bioscience? See for yourself as Jessica Woods takes us through the process of an actual CSI scientist trying to solve a crime.
Solving a robbery using forensic science techniques. Forensic science uses a lot of modern biology techniques, and today we will walk you through one of the main techniques to identify individuals based on their DNA. Miss Melissa Arthur woke up disoriented and confused on her living room floor. She discovered her diamond necklace was missing and reported the robbery to the police. She is 29 years old and in good health. She lives alone and has no pets. The maid had completely cleaned the apartment that morning. The necklace was still in her jewelry box after the maid left. Was this a robbery? Or did she misplace the necklace? There are 3 potential suspects if she was robbed. Ms. Francine Lamarck was a close friend to Melissa for many years. She had a separate key to her apartment. She was caught kissing Melissa's boyfriend, Joseph Park, last week. Ms. Lamarck is a songwriter and owns a dog. Suspect 2, Mr. Joseph Park, has been dating Melissa for the past 2 years. He also has a separate key to her apartment. He was caught kissing Francine Lamarck last week. A neighbor overheard Mr. Park and Melissa fighting last week. Mr. Park is an actor and owns an orange cat. Suspect 3, Ms. Marla Johnson, was a co-worker with Melissa. Melissa received a job promotion that Ms. Johnson also wanted. Ms. Johnson does not have a key to her apartment. She is a TV talk show host and owns a Netherland dwarf rabbit. An investigation of the crime scene revealed Melissa was found unconscious on the living room floor next to a coffee table. The door was not forced open. The coffee table had a glass of wine on it. A bottle of wine was in the kitchen, and a bag of white powder was found in the trash can. A chemical analysis of the wine revealed that the wine contained ketamine. The bag of white powder was analyzed to be ketamine as well. Therefore, Miss Arthur was unconscious due to poisoning. She drank the toxic ketamine mixed with wine and likely became unconscious within a few minutes. Of the physical evidence collected, a clear fingerprint was lifted off the wine glass she drank from. However, the bag of powder and wine bottle had no prints. But this is suspicious since fingerprints are left on glass surfaces. If she was drinking by herself, why would she wipe her fingerprints off the bottle? Within the bag of poison, a hair was caught in the zip seal. Compare the microscopic images of hair samples from different animals. What type of hair was caught in the bag? Fingerprints left at a crime scene are reliable pieces of evidence because every fingerprint is distinctive and different from another. There are three major types of fingerprints: arches, whorls, and loops. They are identified by looking at the main pattern within the fingerprint. The fingerprint from the wine glass is a whorl. It does not match the victim's fingerprints, so it must belong to someone else. This print matches suspect's two fingerprint. Mr. Park must have handled the glass at some point. However, he regularly visited the victim's apartment, so finding his fingerprints on the wine glass is not necessarily incriminating evidence. A DNA analysis of evidence reveals additional information. Every individual has a unique DNA pattern except for identical twins. DNA is found in almost every cell in our body. The evidence DNA sample needs to match the DNA of a suspect or a victim. When blood, hair, or other cells are present at a crime scene, the DNA is collected and extracted. The DNA samples are then amplified using PCR to make many copies of the sample. The PCR products are separated using gel electrophoresis. And the DNA is then analyzed by comparing the evidence DNA to that of the suspects or the National FBI database to ultimately identify the individual. Polymerase chain reaction, also called PCR, is a DNA amplification technique that can make millions of copies from one single DNA molecule. Within just a few hours, a DNA sample can be amplified into billions of DNA copies. This yields enough DNA to do a gel electrophoresis analysis. The term agarose gel electrophoresis can be broken down to explain the meaning of the technique. Agarose is a substance that is found in seaweed and is used to make the gel. The gel itself is used to separate out different sized pieces of DNA when an electric current is run through the gel. And phoresis means the movement of something. In this case, DNA moves by electricity. Agarose gel electrophoresis uses electricity to separate a mixture of DNA pieces by size. It uses the agarose gel, which is a polymer that has different sized holes. DNA is naturally negatively charged and will move towards a positive electrode when a current is run through the gel. Smaller pieces of DNA can move faster and farther through the gel. After making the agarose gel, place it into the gel box. Carefully add enough buffer to cover the gel. Take the micropipette and adjust it to the desired volume. Then begin to load the gel with the samples. Always use a fresh tip with a new sample to avoid cross-contamination. Once all the samples are loaded, turn on the electric current to run the gel. Watch the DNA samples move through the agarose gel and separate into specific bands. A DNA gel shows DNA bands of specific sizes. Each band represents DNA pieces of a single size. The unique DNA fingerprint is a pattern of all the DNA bands from a single DNA sample or individual. Immediate family members will have similarities in the DNA banding pattern. To match DNA samples, every single band within the pattern must be the same, aka a perfect match. Which DNA sample is the perfect match to the evidence DNA? Remember, every single band needs to match. Suspect 2 is a perfect match. Is this robbery still suspicious? What is your conclusion? Who stole her necklace? Based on all the facts discovered during the case investigation, the police have concluded that Joseph Park must have administered the ketamine in the wine and stolen the necklace. Case closed.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shirley Weber, California's first African-American Secretary of State. You know, when I was born in the South, being Secretary of State of the largest state in the Union was inconceivable. It was not something that people aspired to become, and surely was not something that folks ever believed would happen. And yet here I am, the first African-American and the first African-American woman to hold such a position. And I believe I'm here because not only did I prepare myself academically, but I took chances. I was unafraid. I went to a university before my family even thought about anyone going to universities. I entered a field of teaching at the university when there were very few of us to do so. And I continued to take chances to be the first in a whole lot of areas that most had never believed would happen for African Americans. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today, because I want to challenge you to be among the first, to challenge yourself to step into a field that very few people have done, in the field of bioscience. It is extremely important that you understand the power that you have to influence yourself and influence the world. You know, when we think about bioscience, we think of those who are technologically brilliant, who can understand all of the science and the things that are related. But we also should think about the power of those who not only have the technical skills, but the cultural skills as well. To understand what it is to be Black, to be Latino, to be poor, to be left out of the health system altogether, and have a drive to make sure that we provide that kind of health equity for everyone. So we're counting on you, your generation. 70% of you are below the age of 25 right now. And we know that we will have a better future, a stronger future, when you're prepared to take the challenge. So I want to encourage you to step out, take the chance, master this bioscience in which you're involved, and take advantage of this experience, and make sure at that point that you will represent us and represent us well in an area where we have not been well represented. So once again, congratulations on this very special program. I know you will all do well, and I'm honored to be here, to be with you, to encourage you to step out, to take chances, and to be the first in whatever you want to achieve. Have a great meeting.
All right. So Dr. Weber is a hero. It's very clear. I hope you take some time to learn more about her on your own time, the work that she did, and her personal journey. But she issued a challenge to all of you. I hope you heard it. She wants you to commit to being future biotech leaders. If you go to the meeting pulse and check the pulse tab, you'll see a poll asking if you'll commit. So please go there now and let us know. I'm looking. The poll and survey, 96% said bands, and 91% answered the question about the necklace. The answer was her boyfriend. That had 91%. Here's my question. If you are going to share something on social media, specifically Instagram story or a TikTok video showing that you make the pledge, please tag me in it because I want to see it. My social media handle is at Mr. Howard 365 because my name is Robert Howard and that's every day. So at Mr. Howard 365 is how you can tag me. I would love to see if you are posting something that says you're going to make a commitment to be a biotech leader. I appreciate it. Let's see if anyone's done it yet or doing it now. Social media check. Suspense music. Not yet. We're going to get there. Well, it looks like I'll be back in a few, and I'm going to definitely be checking while I'm off camera.
Hi, my name is Kyle Mann. I'm a senior at Newbury Park High School. I hope you're enjoying this Future Biotech Leaders Summit as much as I am. I'm really looking forward to this next conversation. Have you ever wondered how someone becomes a founder of a biotech startup? I know I have. I know I want to work in biotech in the future, and maybe this next conversation about entrepreneurship and bioscience will inspire me to start a bioscience company of my own.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Lewis. I direct the program office for the ABE program globally, which includes 21 sites apart from this one that serves the greater Los Angeles area. I'm extremely passionate about science and science education and providing opportunities for all students to engage in and be inspired by science, having been raised with very few opportunities to engage with science. And while I was able to succeed in school, I saw many of my classmates in the city of Boston, most of whom were Black or Latinx, do not have the same success and opportunities as smart and hardworking as they were. So I've always felt it's really important to make sure that all students and all people are given the same opportunities and not held back because of where they're from, how much money their family may have, or what schools they attend. So part of what we're going to talk about in this panel today are two excellent examples of people who have come from another country and really made a wonderful opportunity as well as amazing contributions to our society. Before I introduce the panelists though, let me give you a little context about this topic. Did you know that in 2017, biosciences companies' revenues topped $178 billion in California alone? More than 311,000 Californians were directly employed through this sector, and 958,000 jobs support and are supported by that sector. Also in 2017, there were about 3,249 biosciences companies in California alone, more than any other state in the US. In fact, this is more than the combined numbers of companies in the states with the second and third highest amounts. And this industry is strong and growing not only in California, but across the country and globally. This afternoon, we're extremely lucky to have two founders of a startup to talk to you about their journey in the biosciences. Dr. Leila Dineshmandi, I'd like to introduce you and welcome you. Thank you so much for being here. And also Dr. Armin Tamasabi Rod. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. May I call you Leila and Armin, if that's okay with you? Of course. Great, thank you. The Dr. Dineshmandi and Dr. Tamasabi Rod are the co-founders of a company called Encapsulate. So I'm going to ask you, could you explain, either of you, what the company does?
So thank you very much for having us again. Encapsulate is a startup in the field of cancer therapy. But before I talk about Encapsulate particularly, let me very briefly give you an idea about cancer treatments in the clinics. As you may know, today we have much higher life expectancy compared to like the past decades, fortunately. And one of the side effects of this fact is that now we have a higher chance for getting cancer. Current statistics are showing the fact that more than 40% of the current population of the US will get cancer at some point in their lives. And that means one person per every household. So pretty much all of us have a very high chance for being exposed to cancer directly or indirectly. And on the other hand, the good news is that there are thousands of brilliant researchers trying to coming up with new drugs every day to treat cancer. And today, on average, we have like more than 25 different approved drugs for each type of cancer. So maybe the question would be then, if that's the case, what makes it so difficult to cure the cancer and save people's lives? Today, when a patient is diagnosed with cancer, the oncologist chooses one of these possible treatments, depending on the type of the cancer, the personal experience, and so on. And if the drug doesn't work in a chemotherapy cycle, they have to choose the second drug, the third drug, and it goes on until they get a response from the patient's body or the patient passes away. And during the time the drug is not working, obviously the cancer is progressing and chance of treating cancer goes lower and lower. We at Encapsulate have developed a tiny device in which we can grow patients' cancer cells, but outside of the body. And what we do is technically we take a portion of the tumor as a biopsy, and then we use those cancer cells from the patient's body and use them to create tiny tumors, like microcopies, miniature copies of the actual tumors, outside of the body, hundreds of them. And then we can test all of the possible treatments, all of those 25 different drugs, different combinations of them, different concentrations, to advocate the best course of treatment on an individualized basis.
That is just amazing, particularly for those of us who remember when there were very few drugs available to treat cancers, and often they were more harmful than the good that they were doing. That's really amazing to hear. Thank you so much for that. And how did you come up with the idea of doing this work that you're engaged in?
So it wasn't totally a serendipity, but maybe some kind of it. I started my PhD in nanomedicine. Layla was working on tissue regeneration. And, you know, when I was developing a new platform for treating cancer, a new sets of cancer drugs, and then whenever you have new medicines, you have to test it with at different levels, like animal studies or clinical trials and so on. So instead of going directly to animal studies, I was thinking of coming up with a system in which I can use patient samples, patient cells, but without bothering patients or interfering with the actual clinical treatments. And then, you know, I came up with this idea, I shared it with Layla, we brainstormed, and then we developed a system together in which we could do it without bothering anyone, killing any animal or bothering the patients. And then suddenly we figured out that, okay, if that can test our drugs or our platforms, why no one does it in the clinic for the actual treatments which are already FDA approved, and why everything is kind of random in the clinic? So then, you know, the bingo happened, and the byproduct of the PhD thesis became like the main product. So instead of, you know, pursuing the actual platform that I was developing, you know, we focused on this in the past 4 years, and, you know, it has been quite successful till now.
That's amazing. I have often heard doctors describe medicine as far more an art form than an actual science. So the idea of not having to do your experiment on a human and is obviously a wonderful one. So you obviously both learned how to do research in school. You pursued advanced degrees, and you discovered this process while experimenting on your own in grad school. But did grad school prepare you for this journey that you're on of starting and running a company, or did you receive other support, and from where?
I would say yes and no. So grad school taught us how to manage projects, to run projects. With a company, it has similarities in the sense that you have to be able to execute something from the very beginning to the end. And more or less, you're independent and you have to learn to rely on yourself. But the stakes are so much higher when you have a company, and especially if it's something that you're passionate about. I'll just give an example for any student who's been doing experiments in grad school. When you have an experiment that fails in grad school, you think, oh my God, my degree may be over, or that I have to plan a whole new set of experiments. With a company, when that happens, you're like, okay, my future is gone. So that's just a comparison. But I would say that going through grad school, maybe after undergrad allows you to learn your own working style, and it also allows you to learn a lot about yourself and how you manage, the pressure, the work style. So that answers the first part of your question. And in terms of support, yeah, of course, we're going to get into this, I think, in a little bit about us being immigrants. But when we came here, our community, our family was the university. And so I'm sure any school has resources or people that are available that you can reach out to if this is something that you're interested in. We were both at the University of Connecticut, and we were fortunate that they had a couple of entrepreneurial programs, both in the school, the state, and New England area. So, just reach out to anyone, anywhere in your school, your region, or your state. I'm sure that there are resources available.
Thank you. I think that's a really important lesson in life for all of us, is reach out and ask. Lots of people are willing to help us as we're on our way, and we can only get what we want if we ask the question. You mentioned that you are an immigrant, actually that both of you are immigrants, as are many of those who work in the biosciences. I work with Amgen very closely, and many of my colleagues are from other countries. In fact, I was joined my colleagues in Turkey the other morning. It was 2 o'clock in the morning for me because they were having a media event. And it's a vibrant international community. How has being an immigrant and your immigration experience coming to the United States impacted your journey in science, if at all?
Oh, very good question. I think each of us can talk about the difficulties that any one of us face as an immigrant. And for example, like many other students who are on single entry student visas, we couldn't visit our families for like 6 years when we came to the United States. And then the travel ban happened, which affected us and so on. But honestly, I think all of those difficulties pushed us as persons to embrace the fact that this is our second home. And then people are so wonderful, super supportive, as Leila mentioned. We got lots of supports in different communities from the university, from clinicians and so on, through the entrepreneurial journey that we've had in the past 4 years. And they were super supportive. And in the past 9 years, we learned a lesson that as the CEO of the company, or as an adjunct professor, or any other position that we have to have sympathy with students, with employees that we have now, and understand their conditions much better and put ourselves in their shoes. Everything was quite different as immigrant. I mean, the bureaucracy for just getting an approval to have access to patient samples is quite different here compared to my country or any other country. And everything comes to the point that you have to be flexible, open to learn, and understand the fact that people are trying to help you, and pretty much everyone is super kind. And if you understand their position, their point of view, they are going to help you at the end of the day. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned in the past 9 years being in the US.
Thank you so much. Leila, earlier we discussed a little bit about all the people working in biotech, and one of the realities is that there are not that many women who are working in the biosciences. There are even fewer women who co-found bioscience startups and have that entrepreneurial role as well. What advice would you give to young girls watching today based on your own experience?
Right. That is the reality, and it's the harsh reality. I've pitched at various events, and I've been in different boardrooms where I've been the only female in the room. I've been invited to participate at different, places where I've been told the only reason that you've been asked to be here is because you're female. But having those aside, for me, being in STEM specifically, if I were to speak my own experience, being in STEM, I could say that I have been fortunate to have unbiased mentors that have supported me based on the quality of my work, my character, and my work ethic. And I think those three are the ones that you want, right? You want the people to put any judgment or preconceptions or judge you based on solely those facts. What I would say I've learned from my personal experience is that it's easier for people to categorize you and to label you and to put you in a box. There will be this load that you have to carry, maybe a little extra load because of your background, but it's the way that you carry that load. You don't have to let what others think about you be the thing that defines you. The best thing that I learned was to learn my strengths, what I'm good at. It doesn't have to necessarily be what your partner is good at or what the person across the room is good at. It's your own strength. It's unique to you. And you may not realize that it's your strengths until you do a little digging into yourself. So I would suggest to kind of find what you're good at and be confident in that. And it could be little things. It could be that you're a detail-oriented person. It could be that you could multitask, or that you're compassionate, you're kind, you're able to listen. All of these could be your strengths. So don't undermine that, and don't let the negative define who you are.
I think that's a really wonderful message. I love to hear it. Having been in situations myself where I was told there aren't women who do this work, I really had to learn to dig and just believe in myself, even if others didn't, and eventually prove myself. And I think we all end up in that position at some time. So I love to hear the advice of find what you're good at and hold on to that. As we wrap up, I want to ask a question that is likely in the mind of a number of students, which is, where are your offices located, and do you have internship opportunities or opportunities for young people to get involved?
Oh, we sure do. So we are based in Connecticut, in the New England, right between Boston and New York, 1.5 hour distance from each of them. So our kind of headquarters is located here. And we do hire interns pretty much every year. We have something between 3 to 5 students. Most of them are undergrads from the field of biomedical engineering or pharmacy or different fields of business school. We have hired for this year, but definitely we are open for the next year. And a rule of thumb, we are always looking for passion more than anything else. So if you are an undergrad, we are not expecting you to have like a lot of knowledge in the field of cancer or develop some technologies in your resume or something like that. What we are looking for is being eager to learn and be passionate about science. And I think that's pretty much similar for many other startups or big companies. I think what people are looking for is be open as a student to learn and diversify your knowledge, especially when you're in your undergrads. Diversify your knowledge, try to test different things and figure out you are good at which of different aspects, and then, you know, move on for your next stage of life, whether it is like a med school or grad school or your job or professional job or anything.
It's a really great answer. And I think most of the students watching are in Los Angeles. I'm likewise in the Northeast, and I will just say it's snowing today, so they may want to consider that if they're.
I couldn't believe it.
To our area.
Today morning, I was, are you kidding?
Couple of inches today, not fun. Last question that I just want to ask is, and I'll ask both of you to respond to this. What advice would you give to somebody who thinks they may be interested in pursuing biosciences or particularly bioscience startup in the future? Layla, we can start with you.
Well, if you're considering it, you're at least a couple steps ahead of me at the time. I didn't even know what entrepreneurship was. So, you know, if you're considering it, I would definitely reach out to any information that you can find and educate yourself, maybe on industry trends, if it's something that you're, you know, serious about, to see where the directions are headed. I think entrepreneurship is more about having that problem-solving, solution-seeking mindset, and it's not necessarily about incorporating a company. It could be, you know, trying to fix problems that you can encounter every day, or if it could be a problem that, you know, the cancer patients are dealing with. So I think if you're considering it, definitely go for it. Yeah.
Great. Armin?
Yeah, I think Layla pretty much give the whole answer, and I cannot add anything else, but maybe add just one point to that. I would say, as a high school student, as an undergrad student, try not to commit to one topic, try to diversify your knowledge in different fields and be open to anything that you can learn. Go to as many internships as we can, go to different labs, become volunteers whenever you are even sophomore or freshman. It is not soon. I mean, you can just expose yourself to different fields and see what you can learn from them. I think both of us, both Leila and I, we started this type of activities like volunteer research in the lab since we were sophomore in our undergrads, and then we have been researching till now, which has been, I don't know, I don't want to count years because it makes me old, but anyway, I think that's my main point. Diversify. Whenever you're young, it's much easier to learn new things, and try to learn as much as you can.
Great. Thank you again, both of you, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. I'm sure the students do as well. Now let me turn it back over to Rob Howard.
Hello, everybody. Pin, what I got, a pin. All right, so I'm back for a couple things. One, I want to make sure that I inform you that we'll have about 8 minutes for questions and answers towards the end. I also want to check in to see how many of y'all have taken the pledge to be a future biotech leader. So I'm checking my iPad and my phone for social media, and be sure that you can tag me at Mr. Howard 365, at Mr. Howard 365. But also, I want to encourage you to find ABE Los Angeles on Instagram, and also LA Fund, so that the community can see who's taking the pledge, who's posting, and being engaged online. Social media is a valuable tool, so let's use it. When you have questions, please feel free to use the meeting pulse as well as Microsoft Team chat. So when you have questions, those are the two spots we'll be looking at. But with that, let's hear from another student.
Hi, my name is Arthur and I'm a sophomore at CSUN. One thing that's been clear to me after watching today's summit is that even the most accomplished people have been inspired and supported by others to get to where they are. I know my teacher at Reseda High, Dr. Wooten, inspired me. Our final keynote speaker for today is someone who's inspired many. In fact, Dr. Ali Kaido Mussaini has mentored over 50 people who are now teaching at places like Harvard, MIT, UC Riverside, and so many other places. So, let's give him a virtual round of applause.
So I want to check in. Dr. K or Dr. Ali is here with us as our keynote.
Thank you.
Good time for me to start?
Feel free.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to come and tell you guys about some of the work that we're doing, and really more about my career and my inspiration. So not so long ago, or at least I hope not so long ago, I was probably in your shoes. I was a young engineering student at University of Toronto, and I decided to go to chemical engineering. I really didn't know what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. So I learned a little bit things about kind of, science is interesting. There's a lot of potential opportunities, but no real direction until I remember my third year of my summer of my third year of university, where I entered the laboratory, the biomedical laboratory for the first time. I remember that it was so amazing because I felt like, I had everything around me to ask any question and then be able to use science to answer it. So to me, it was just like literally being like a kid in a candy store. I felt so empowered. So that really inspired me to kind of take a deep look at having a scientific career. But it wasn't easy. I can tell you that I actually started off doing research, and I didn't get my first publication, which is kind of a measure of success in science, until 5 years after I started. And it was 5 years of grueling, doing things that I learned a lot from, being able to kind of make mistakes and go over them, have lots of passion and lots of perseverance. And this was really important because it allowed me to get better and better. So I wound up going from University of Toronto to MIT, where I met one of the most inspirational people that I've ever met in my life, which is Professor Robert Langer. Bob, as he likes to be called, is one of the world's top innovators. He is he's one of the co-founders of Moderna, which is one of the companies that is providing the COVID vaccine right now. And I learned a lot about asking important questions and trying to solve big problems, because that at the end is the part that is gonna change the world and make the world a better place. So I learned about that. And when I started my own lab at Harvard back in 2005, I tried to kind of apply all of those kinds of things that I learned. And I was in Harvard until 2017. And it was a fantastic time. I had a lot of great experiences. And it was around that time that I decided that maybe it was good to come to the other coast and see some of the opportunities here and try to make some big waves here. I initially came to University of UCLA, and soon after I saw this incredible opportunity to make an impact in Southern California. And one of the things that you guys should know about doing lab work is that it's not very often that something that you do in the lab actually changes the way people think or practice their profession, or as far as me as a bioengineer is concerned, changes the way people perform medicine. So I thought that it would be a great opportunity to build an institute that focuses on innovation, on coming up with solutions to important problems, and then be able to solve those and overcome some of those things. And not only be able to find the solution in a laboratory, but be able to work with entrepreneurs, work with existing companies, work with different types of folks to be able to take what we find in the laboratory and make it into a real successful product that changes lives. And this is, to me, has been a very rewarding opportunity. The Institute now is very nascent, is just beginning from less than a year ago, but we've already been making a lot of progress. For anyone who's interested, I always tell people to check us out at terasaki.org to see a little more about what we're doing. But just to tell you some of the things that we're doing, we're very much interested in using human cells and make human tissues that can be used for transplantation and be able to overcome all kinds of diseases by being able to get tissues that are going to be functional in a person. So you can think about everything from cancer to different types of trauma to liver disease or heart disease. All of these things you can potentially address by being able to make tissues that can replace tissues in the body or use cells like immune cells to be able to attack, let's say, bad cells like cancer cells in the body. So there's a lot of amazing science that's happening with this right now, and we're super excited about pushing some of these things forward. Just to give you another quick example of how we aim to help humanity, one of the things that's right now super important is really the food supply for the rest of for the 10 billion people on the planet in the next few years. Some of you guys may have seen some of these documentaries about how farming, animal farming, and cows, for example, are causing a lot of environmental damage. We've been thinking about that, and we start to appreciate how even technologies that we use traditionally for medical applications can be used to solve very important food and environmental problems. So for example, we have a big program in trying to take cells from cows, never slaughter a cow, keep the cows perfectly happy, but be able to take those cells, grow them in the laboratory to be able to make steak or other types of meat products, and make it in a way that we don't have to destroy forests to kind of make farming land and or kill animals or have all these additional greenhouse gases that are coming out of it. So those are the kind of things I think once you start getting the scientific bug, I think there's a lot of opportunities to think about how you can make the world a better place. And once you have your expertise in one thing, you can apply it to other things and make a difference. So this is a little bit what I wanted to talk about. I'd love to answer some questions, and I want to thank everyone for their time.
I love it. Perfect. So I guess the first question that I have is, if you could only provide one piece of advice to a student interested in biosciences, what would that be? What would you advise?
Well, if that person is interested in biosciences, I think I would make sure that interest is actually a passion first. So if that person is beyond interested and becomes passionate about making an impact in biosciences, then the next thing I would say, or the one thing I would tell the person, is that get ready for failure, because anytime you want to achieve something that's difficult and be able to solve problems, you have to get ready to fail, and fail again, and persevere. So this is something that separates many people who are successful at the end of the day, because they do go through that process of constant failures and are able to still maintain their passion and see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can tell you, even in my daily activities right now, I fail 9 out of 10 times, right? So I used to play baseball, and we used to say that hitting a baseball is the hardest thing in the world because you fail. Professionals fail 7 out of 10 times, and they're good hitters. But in something like science, you can fail 9 out of 10 times or 95% of the time, and you still have to learn to overcome those challenges. So this is the one advice that I would give people: have perseverance and be able to overcome failure.
Yeah, I love that you shared that, and also a couple other people on this call shared about failure, because I remember when I was younger, and also in my household, school and the world, and maybe even my family, led me to believe that failure was bad and that it should be avoided. But there's something in the message that I'm receiving here and in science, that failure is actually where we grow and where we learn. It's important to the process. So I really appreciate that. My next question
Exactly. Just before you go, one thing that I like, that I heard recently that I liked, is that it's not failure if you learn something from it.
I love it. And it's very true. What do you feel that maybe a middle school student could do in order to pursue a biotech career in their future?
I think that it's super important to get as much exposure to different things in bio-related world. It's not, for me, if I was a very late bloomer in university is when I realized how much I was passionate about this. But there is a lot of opportunities for people early on to learn about science. I wish we had YouTube when I was growing up, because there's so much educational content there that one can learn about. The other thing is get out and try to get involved. A lot of places have programs where they bring in young people and teach them about what's going on in the scientific world and what's going on in their laboratories. So get exposed to the different types of opportunities out there, whether you want to be a scientist or whether you want to be a medical doctor or clinician. There are a lot of ways to kind of learn more about these careers, and the sooner one gets the idea of what they want to do in the future, the better they'll be off, because then they can prepare for it. And they're already way ahead of everyone else who, like me, who didn't know what I wanted to do until third year of university.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Do you incorporate any personalized medicine in considering which medications to test?
This is a very, very important question. One of the things that I was fascinated with is that only 10 to 20% of people who take a medication actually get benefits from it. So this is incredible, because even medications that are selling like hot dogs in the medical world are only effective on certain people. And worse yet, they can actually be harmful to some people. So being able to understand what medication is going to work on which individual is something that's really important. And one of the ways to do that is to be able to take a person's cells, like let's take a few skin cells, and use those skin cells to make other tissue types, to make other cell types of that person. And once we have that, we can actually now start asking the question, is this drug gonna be harmful to this person? Is this drug gonna be able to solve this person's disease? So these are the kind of questions that now we can actually test by combining some of the technologies that I mentioned, which is using things like stem cells and being able to grow cells and tissues out of them. And these are going to be very important in addressing these kinds of problems.
Wow. What was the percentage that you shared?
So it varies between the drugs, but literally between 5% to 25% is like the top 10 selling drugs in the U.S. When you look at how effective they are, that's the ratio.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I learned so much. I really am honored to have this conversation with you. You know, even though we're using technology, it would have been phenomenal to be on the same stage or in the same room, in the same place, but I still feel connected and I learned so much. I hope you enjoyed today, everyone. I know I did. Let's do one final meeting pulse check. How did you feel about today? Let's use the meeting pulse. Just want to encourage also everyone to keep posting the screenshots and your favorite quotes or things that you learned or stuff that stuck out to you, any questions that are on your mind, any of the good stuff about today's summit. And I just want to thank you again, Dr. K, and all our guests, everyone who presented, everybody who shared, everyone who came, all the people behind the scenes that are working and got me to be on camera today and gave me this opportunity. I want us to keep the conversation going on social media. Can you find me on social media at Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and all that good stuff at Mr. Howard 365. And you also can find ABE-LA on Instagram and LA Promise Fund on Facebook and Instagram. And once again, I'm going to sign off here with an encouragement to take care of yourself and be safe.
The Amgen Biotech Experience is now an international program with over 22 sites worldwide, inspiring a lifelong passion for scientific discovery in students globally. We support our teachers by providing training workshops and research-grade equipment and supplies for their students to perform the labs. Our program provides students the opportunity to learn hands-on skills actually used in research and development of medical therapeutic products.
The reward of being a young scientist is the emotional thrill of being the very first person in the history of the world to see or to understand something, and nothing can compare to that experience.
Nothing in life is to be feared, it's only to be understood. So now's the time to understand more so we can fear less. Follow your dreams so you can become the future leaders of biotech.
Over 70% of people in California under 25 are people of color. That's only going to increase over time. That's why we need you to commit to be future biotech leaders. We need you to make sure that the diversity of all of our communities is considered in medical research. We want to see you leading biotech startups. We want you to be using your diverse lived experiences to shape policies that affect the health of us all. Will you commit to being a future biotech leader? Go to our site now to learn more.
Are you feeling inspired after this amazing summit? Are you ready to become a biotech leader? If you're not sure, that's okay too. Science education helps you build the ability to investigate the unknown and inspires you to think big. All these skills are so helpful in many parts of your life, and I know this firsthand because I'm a scientist myself. My name is Mahsa Khatibetnami, and I'm the director of the Amgen Biotech Experience program in the Greater Los Angeles area. I want to thank you all for being with us today. All the teachers, thank you. All the students, thank you. I would like to give an extra special thank you to the Amgen Foundation, who has created and supported the Amgen Biotech Experience program around the world. Thank you, the ABE Program Office at EDC, for your nonstop support and leadership. Thank you, my ABE colleagues in San Diego and San Francisco, for your partnership in this summit. We look forward to it growing even stronger than before. I would like to also thank my fabulous colleagues at LA Promise Fund, our amazing production team led by the Citizen Jones Consulting, and all of our partners who have supported this summit and helped the Amgen Biotech Experience program possible for so many deserving students. We look forward to seeing you next year in our summit, but until then, stay connected by visiting our website and following us on social media. Now, let me introduce our social media host, Rob Howard, one final time.
Applause for yourself and everybody involved in the leadership. See you next time.